Welcome back. Venue switch. So we're here in the old studio. You probably recognize the black walls. This is now a guest room. I mean, it's my office. It's where I work out of when I'm not at the studio now. Very empty in here. It's a very different look. Lighting changes everything. But in this video, as I get ready to, I'm gonna literally go get a haircut and then getting on a plane to go to Atlanta for Thanksgiving. So we're gonna talk about how to trade trend lines because it's so relevant, right? We've had some really sick, absolutely disgusting trades this week off of macro trend lines. So this is gonna be a macro trend line trading video. This is also a really good video to watch if you're somebody who's busy, you're traveling, it's holidays, could be relevant, right? I was just in Japan for 10 days. I was trading while I was there off of the daily, and this higher time frame, very simple confluence touch trades. They don't give you that many trades to take, but honestly, that's what you should be looking for anyways. So if you want to start trading trend lines, if you're unsure of how to do it, watch until the end of the video. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Also, who am I? I'm Forrest. I invest in stuff. I think everybody should too. Yeah, let's go ahead and get to the video. So before we even get into this, we need to ask ourselves a very fundamental question. Do trend lines even work? Do they even matter? Okay, and the answer to the first question is yes, and the second answer is no. But then the third bullet, which I haven't even said yet, is also yes, they do matter. Okay, so I'm gonna show you why. I'm gonna talk about how I talk about trend lines. This week is really good, right? I actually just talked to some of my coaching students about trend lines. We had a really good technical week, almost like magic. Right after we had that discussion, did like a 3-hour discussion on technicals. By the way, if you're looking about coaching, I'm gonna do another cohort in 2025. I'll throw up my website here on this video with my waiting list. We've been doing it just for people in the Discord. Yes, I have a course. I'm the trader of the course. All the haters can hate all you want. I love teaching people and doing stuff like that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel. So I was gonna flip you guys off, but I was like, I won't do that. But they do work. I'm gonna talk about the layers and how to apply them correctly. I think that a lot of people look at TA as astrology for very good reason, because you can throw literally any arbitrary line on a chart, but there's an order of operations that you have to do it in, right? So I am a volume trader first. I trade the volume profile, volume over time, volume at specific points in time. I care about people's participation in the auction. Here's a very simple example for you. If there's 1,000,001 participants in the market, okay, and 1,000,000 people all buy and sell at $100, and then there's one person who has an order at $101, and I want to transact quickly, okay? My best bet is to transact where the 1,000,000 people are, right? At $100, where most people are. That's what the volume profile tells you. It tells you where most people are. It's a really simple concept. People are gonna go, you're probably spinning up some rabbit hole right now. Like, no, but there's like, look, the volume profile just tells you where people actually exist in the market, which makes it such a useful tool. So where do trend lines come into place? Well, trend lines could tell us or give us an anticipation about where and when that participation is going to occur again. Okay, so there's a fancy word for that called confluence. So let's take a look at some trend lines on a higher time frame. We're not going to talk about lower time frame trend analysis right now. It's not too useful. First and foremost, all principles apply on every single time frame, but as a general rule of thumb, if I'm looking at a 5-minute chart, right, then I need to wait at least 5 minutes. If I'm looking at the 4-hour chart, I need to wait at least 4 hours. But if you're looking at a set of candles, right, if I'm looking at 3 4-hour candles to come up with an analysis, then I should probably wait for 3 more 4-hour candles for my analysis to play out. All right, that means I'm gonna have to be patient. The whole point of that little spiel there was you're gonna have to be patient, guys. A lot of you guys aren't patient. You front run your lines, and if you're not gonna use your lines, don't drop them, right? A lot of trades that we talk about, actually my cookie cutter trades actually don't require trend lines at all, which goes back to that question of do they matter? Yes or no. I use them purely for confluence. Trend lines are great for confluence. They're a great trading tool. I trade off of them all the time, okay? But they are not the first thing that I look for in the market. The first thing I look for is volume and volume at price. So let's go ahead and look at a very specific example from this past week that you can pull into 2025 to finally make your first $100,000. So looking at this chart right here from last week, and I picked an arbitrary point in time. When is this? This is Tuesday. So this is Tuesday. There's a few things going on. One, we have this macro kind of channel. Okay, so there's 2 trend lines that we've kind of drawn. How did we get here though? Let's just get rid of those and let's do some standard volume analysis. So the first question that I asked myself, and this is the order of operations that you want to do, so go ahead and write this down, follow along, is what liquidity matters? Okay, and the second question is how do we get there? So this is a very simple order of operations. Now I'm gonna use my arrow tool and we could point it out. Well, there's a huge amount of people right here. There's a huge amount of people right here. There's a huge amount of people right here. and there's another amount of people down here. So there's 4 nodes here sticking out where we know people exist in the market. Okay, very, very simple, guys. It doesn't matter what you tell me within this time frame, right? This is the visible range volume profile and trading view. Most people have actually participated up here at these highs, right? This is where most participation is on my screen right now. Okay, interestingly enough, and you can see that we're kind of chopping up here. If I zoom out here and we add a little bit more context into this range, okay, let's actually go back to this point in time where we started chopping up a little bit. We'll do option V. Okay, let's see what our volume profile looks like. So you can see that there's a huge node down here now. This node is still here a little bit further, and it's getting lighter as we get to the top. So there's this low value area actually in the middle. Okay, and price is kind of moving off of this major shelf down here, right? With the low actually right here off of this node. So the question is, where should I draw my trend line? And then how do I trade off of my trend line, right? What liquidity matters, we just pointed it out. How do we get there? Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom in. The way that I do trend lines, right, and the way that you should do them is you want them to be as precise as possible. Otherwise, there's really no point in using them, in my opinion. Okay, so we're just gonna find the actual ends of these wicks, and I wanna line this up as perfectly as I can with the highs and as perfectly as I can with the lows. So what about this right here? Do I consider this a touch? Yes, it's close, but I still wanna line it up, okay? I want to line it up. So there's that line. There's also the possibility of what I call inside lines, right? So at a glance, we can see that there are some other trends that might exist here, okay, in this time frame. There's that line right there that I could have. My recommendation, instead of having all these lines on one chart, okay, is to definitely have the outer ones. If you're gonna have inside lines, be very, very critical of them, right? You wanna line with as many touches as possible, right? The more clean touches, the more useful the line is. As soon as the line starts having, you know, a bunch of points that aren't touching it, I would consider getting rid of it. Okay, so I extend this line backwards. I can see it's a little wonky, so I might just extend it like up here, keep it like that. Let's see if we get a line there. This line here, I want to back test it a little bit, see if we got a few more touches. And you can see that there is kind of this inside trend here off of this low. If I move it to here, we can see that that's a pretty good inside line there as well. Cool. So we've got our outside lines, and we have this inside line, which I will change to a little bit lighter green. If I want to use this trend line, okay, we're in this channel, I want to find a bounce that's going to have confluence with these nodes here. So if you've looked at my video on how to trade a volume profile, or any of them, you'll know that price traverses these nodes. So if we come up, we're probably gonna come to here and bounce, or we're gonna traverse to the other side of the shelf and bounce. So if we come down, we'll come down to here and bounce, or all the way down to here-ish and bounce, okay? So I wanna figure out a trend line touch that has confluence with the shelf. So just eyeballing this is probably gonna be around here, or it's gonna be around here for a trend line touch, all right? So as soon as we cross this trend line and we get confluence with one of these areas, I want to hit a buy. Cool, so let's go ahead and hit buy on that one. And what do I wanna trade to? Well, this is a high volume 4-hour candle that just closed with a bottom wick. Classic candlestick analysis. It should go and run through this node, and it should sweep back up to this high, right up here. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna put a sell up here. I'm on SwingTrade, so it's not gonna let me put a sell up here, but we'll sell once we get up to this high right around 21,024. Based off my entry, that's around 200 points, okay? Let's see what we get here. A little bit of drawdown. This is just an MNQ though, so it's not a big deal. All right, so you can see here that I'm got right up to the top of this node. This was actually Friday, and it rejected a little bit. See how it traversed? So we dipped into, so this is a rather deep liquidity run. Would I have gotten a perfect entry down here? Probably not. You'll notice that this point where it's jumping out is the top of this node. So maybe I could have done some other analysis. This is an actual trade that I took, and I can tell you that I did not have a perfect entry, right? I got in on the trend line, right? So there was a drawdown that was lived through here of about 92 points. Well, what's the upside on this? Assuming we go for a sweep, I can get this here. It's about 264 points. If you get in on the close of the candle, right, it's 200 points still. So there was some drawdown on this trade. That's fine. It comes up, and look where we went to at the close of this candle, right to the other side of this shelf. So that brings us back to the beginning of this video. How should you use trend lines? This trade here, if you remove all of these lines, was a simple liquidity grab sweep of this low, okay? So I talk a lot about sweeps. My typical trading style is to look at 4 key levels: overnight high and low, prior day high and low. and then the opening range high and low. We swept, in this case, the prior day low and the opening low here, but this is the most relevant low on the 4 hour. Swept that low, ran to a shelf, and it bounced. Don't even need the trend line for this trade, guys. Straight up, you don't. What's cool about trend lines is that they give us very tight risk parameters. They help us understand where we might want to take a trade with a little bit more precision, okay? And because trading is all visual, okay, it's 100% visual, it allows us to understand or give projections into the future expectations of the market. So a few things you'll notice is my original trend line now doesn't really work out anymore, right? We slice through it, which is fine. The trend line gives us a place to take a trade, right? Lining up this bounce with the trend, right? We're bouncing off this line, huge bottom wick with high volume, classic hammer candle signal off of this lower edge of the market. This gives us our risk parameters. Going forward, I need to ask myself, do I want to use this line now that it's been sliced like this? Do I need to adjust it? But that's why I use trend lines. It's very, very simple. So if you're somebody who is trying to figure out how to use trend lines and overcomplicating it, wondering if you should be just a trendline trader or not. So should you be just a trendline trader? No, everyone should be a volume trader. Volume trading is the best way to give you that future prediction about price, which is going to give you the most EV out of your trades. It's going to give you the most expected value out of your trade, right? Trading from this edge of the shelf up to this edge, that's 380 points. You actually don't need a trend line at all for that. Adding the trend line gives you that extra layer of precision around risk management. Managing your risk is how you stay in the game. Okay, the longer that you stay in the game, the more likely you are to get lucky. And I'm not talking about bad luck, I'm talking about the good luck. Okay, stay alive. Staying alive is your #1 goal as a trader. This is honestly how simple I keep it, guys. Trendline trading doesn't need to be a science. TA in general doesn't need to be rocket science. I think that a lot of people overcomplicate it because they don't have any other way to analyze the market. They rely on lines purely for their understanding of the market. I don't need any indicators on my chart at all to trade. I would like volume profile, but really you can intuit volume profile just by looking at consolidation, right? The longer that something consolidates at a set of prices, you know that it's accumulating volume there, right? But if I only had just volume on my chart, right? Just both volume, the volume profile and my horizontal volume across time, I would be totally okay. Wow, I apologize. I'm totally losing my voice, but I hope that was useful. It makes sense. Please subscribe. More content coming soon. See you in the next video. Peace.